things just started clicking slowly into place, empty biros, tin foil.
We did notice actually that it started being a bit unclean.
She'd lost a lot of weight.
His behaviour was just so erratic, it was unreal.
He phoned me up on Christmas Eve in 1996, crying, telling me that he needed me. I told him to come home, and he was 6'4" and he sat on my knee like a baby. And he said, "I'm a smackhead."
Vera, if we start with you, how did you find out Richard were taking drugs?
Well, I'd known for a while Richard's behaviour was really off the wall, but I'd chosen not to think it were drugs, really. And then one Sunday morning he phoned me up and said, because he didn't live at home then, he said, "Mum, will you come over, please? Please don't bring me Dad, and please come with an open mind." So I sort of got an inkling then, didn't I? When I went over and found him there, he was huddled in front of his gas fire, and his hair was all greasy and stuck to his head, and it was pretty obvious as soon as I saw him that he was on drugs. I felt terrible, really. I thought he was going to die.
Not only did I find out one daughter was an addict, I found out I got to as well. I was devastated. I didn't know what to do. I walked about with my head down. I actually thought, it's only a cold, it'll go away. And we're talking 6 years on, this cold still ain't gone away.
I suppose for me, when I found out about my lad, it was, what have I done wrong? What have I done to deserve this? Where did I go wrong with him? And again, I denied it for a long time with him.
When my family first found out, it was as chaotic as any moment I've had using. Just that period after, and then my siblings were like, if they could, I'm sure they would have clubbed together and had me buried somewhere for what it did to my mum and dad.
I crumpled inside. I just didn't want to know. I was in a right state. I was losing it, absolutely losing it. It put me on Prozac to get me through it and everything. Because I just couldn't deal with it. I couldn't face anything. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't think. Looking over my shoulder every time I walked out in case it's your son that's doing that. And it was just, I wanted to hide away.
You just want heaven and hell to open up together and swallow you all up and just take you away. You want someone to lift that person away from you. Do something, whatever it is, and bring them back how they were before.
I told my mum that he was injecting heroin, and she said, no he ain't. And I said, when somebody finds him dead in a gutter, remember this conversation. And unfortunately 6 weeks later he was dead.
Because of the stigma attached to drug users and their families, people find it much more comfortable to think that it always happens to somebody else, it'll never happen to me. And to bury your head in sand and deny it, it's comfortable. If you admit it, you've got to do something about it. And the denial can go on for quite a long time.
I was devastated at first, but after a few hours running it over, in my head it was a question of, well, I can deal with this. I can make him better. Biggest mistake I ever thought.
I actually went to a meeting at Rhoda, and I stood up and told them that I was going to detox 2 daughters that weekend, and everybody looked at me as though I were, no chance, but I could do it.
I wanted to help him, I wanted to stop him using drugs, and you just think that you can do that. You think you can go to the doctor and you can get a magic tablet and they're going to stop using drugs.
When they actually have it spelled out to them, if a drug user actually comes and says, "Mum, this is what's happening," that's when the fixing comes into play. We'll sort it, don't worry, we'll get you help and we'll do this. And they're running about like headless chickens. And unfortunately, addiction, it don't work that way. It's really important for family members to understand that this is not a quick fix situation within a family. It can sometimes go on for a lot longer than they anticipate.
My lad was robbing me blind left, right and centre, and I couldn't trust him, and we used to have more arguments because he used to throw that at me. How can I get better when I can't even get my own dad to trust me? And when I look back over the years, I must have had 7 video recorders, a couple of microwaves, God knows how many CDs and videos, and a couple of televisions, umpteen amounts of money, credit card, £1,000 bills on my credit card, and that's where my life went.
It might seem silly to people listening, but I used to justify that with, I don't know where it's gone. Into in my bedroom. You know what I mean? I even used to deny it when there were a dust mark in shape of a video or a stereo outside, or something that used to be there and plugged in.
My older son he's got his own home and young family, and his brother had been in there and they'd fed him and washed his clothes, and he'd palmed a key, and then when they were out, come back and burgled the house. And I remember sitting in the car outside the house with both of them and just sitting there thinking, who do I support now?
Everybody's telling me to forget about my daughters, cast them out, but I can't because of these kids. You know, these 4 kids, they haven't asked for all this. The parents are selling all the toys, the bikes, everything. So whatever expensive things they've got now is all at my house.
It's so important that mums and dads bring the focus back onto their own lives. By the time they contact us, they're usually desperate, they're emotionally drained, they're physically drained, they've got no energy left. Every waking moment is around the drug user.
We've been married for 40 years, and my husband was leaving me because of this. Because he said that I wasn't the person he married anymore. I didn't think about anything else but my youngest son. And he said to me, I've had enough. I can't bear to see you doing this any longer. It's just too painful for me to watch you going through this, so I'm going.
Me and my husband are still struggling to come to terms with it, and I get the things all the time. You either choose your son or you choose me. And I really feel like one day it will be that decision. I choose my son or I choose him, and that's a decision that I can't possibly make. I just can't do it.
When they go to access support, they start to access their needs again, access their identity, which enables them to have some focus and balance so that they can deal with it more effectively.
I think the biggest thing in family support is that you know you're going to be understood. No matter what you say, you can say anything you want in that group, and nobody's going to be shocked, and you know that you're going to be understood. And I think it's just fabulous to me that you can offload amongst people who will just accept you for what you are.
You're there for yourself, and you give as much of yourself as is right for you at that time, and that you're not pushed to talk about or say anything that you're not ready for.
It's important for families to be aware of what they can offer, can't offer, what they will offer and what they won't. And that's vitally important for the drug user as well, so they know what to expect from the parent.
I was one of these people who, because I was a single parent especially, thought that I couldn't turn them away. My major fear had always been that they would die. But getting through support, and support for me really, it enabled me to stop enabling their drug use. I stopped being addicted to their habit. I learnt to deal with the hurt and emotion of saying no to them and closing the door on them when they turned up.
I've learned that I am powerless over anyone else's behaviour. I have only got power over my own behaviour. And there's only me I could change. I couldn't change him, but I could change me. And that's what I actually had to do. And it's been a good move.
I do take them in when they come, but I'll feed them, give them a bath, give them a change of clothes, and then they go again. But that's had to be like that because the amount of times that they've been in, I've thought, right, well, we'll just give it one more go. You can stay tonight. It's raining outside. And they'll go up in the morning and they've either had my wallet or had my visa and, well, anything they can get their hands on, because at the end of the day, they need money to feed a habit. Accessing support helped me to deal with that. What people call it is tough love. And I tell my sons that I love them, and I do love them dearly.
I'm often amazed at how some families really cope with some experiences that they've been through. And I think what keeps them going is love. I've never met any family who've ever encouraged their son or daughter, or loved one for that matter, to take drugs. It's the last thing any family member wants. But if somebody close to you gets drawn into drugs, you want to pull them back out again. And you don't stop until you feel you've achieved that.
You can't just sit at home without any help. I was near myself to suicide, and all these groups have helped me.
There's no one solution actually at all. We all find a way through in our own way. But I think we all need help to do that. And I truly believe if I hadn't had support during this long journey of mine, I wouldn't be here today.
It made me educate myself and also make my mother and stepdad and people around me think about drugs and what's involved, instead of them thinking that cannabis is the same as heroin. They now know the difference. They know what one does, what other does.
For our family, the tragedy that David actually died a few months later, and although that obviously was a dreadful thing, I coped better because I'd had that support, because even in the absolute midst of it I was able to say he had a choice, he made a choice, he made a decision, a very bad decision with hindsight, but it wasn't my fault. I'd done my best.
What we try to get across now is because somebody's chosen to use drugs, it does not necessarily mean that that person is going to die. There are so many people who are drug-free today who are actually walking proof that there is always hope.
I'm 28 years old now. I've been using anything I can since later stage of 13-year-old, 14-year-old. So I'm carrying about in me a 14-year addiction. There were no communication to start off with my mum and my dad and any of my family really. My mum sought support, and I would say as quickly as in 2 weeks. That support that my mum got had a positive effect on my addiction and the way that it went. I were at a fork road in my addiction, the right road or the wrong road, and by my mum having support for herself, it made me more able to make the decision to go down the right road.
You come together in that circle of friends and you are friends, best friends you'll probably ever meet, because you've lived through things that a lot of people can never even imagine.
My daughter was a drug user and she's turned it around. She's now helping other people.
When you actually want to find out facts, you need to talk to somebody who's been there, who it's happened to.
People should learn more about drugs. I used to think it were a dirty word, but I wished I'd have done then what I'm doing now.
I think it's just immeasurable what you get from being with other parents that understand.
You need to keep talking to your kids. You've got to keep talking to your kids. And you've got to be open and honest with them.
I've got my son back, the real son, not the addict. The son I like and I love.